In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to create a custom brush, a custom symbol, and a custom gradient. Before we begin that, I will show you how to create a live paint version for your biker jacket and for your puff sleeve dress. So we worked on the puff sleeve dress and we have used with profile number 4 the special brush for the gathers on the sleeve and also for the flared lines. So if you go to select the entire dress and go to Object Live Paint Make, then you can turn it into a live paint group. However, when you do that, you're not going to notice anything wrong with it. It's going to work okay, but if you look at your lines, you're going to notice that you have lost the width profile number 4 on the gathers and the flare lines. So I'll show you what you have to do in order to avoid that problem. So I'm just going to Command Z a couple of times to go back. And then before you do live paint, you're going to select the black arrow, click and drag to create a selection marquee around the entire dress, and then you're going to go to Object, Expand Appearance. So Object, Expand Appearance, like that. And then after that, you're going to click and drag to select the entire dress and go to Object Live Paint Make. Now you can see you have a live paint group created, and then using the live paint bucket, you can click and drag to quickly just add this color everywhere. And this time, notice you did not lose the quality of the line, which is the width profile number 4 that you added for the gathers and for the flare lines. Similar thing will happen with the biker jacket. You're going to go to biker jacket, and first of all, remember to always make a copy of your original. So do not color the original, you have to make a copy of it first. So I'll go to Edit Copy. I'll create a new layer for my colored version. So click on the New Layer button. And here I'm going to paste my copy, and I will lock all the other layers just to be safe. So if you try to do live paint here, that's actually not even going to work at all. So if you go to Object, Live Paint Make, it's grayed out, it's not available. The reason why it's not available is because I have symbols, so that's why I cannot make a live paint object. So this is a symbol, this is a symbol, and this is a symbol, which is the zipper puller. And also I have used the brush. So if I turn this into a live paint group, I'm going to lose the properties of my brush. So to avoid all these different problems, I'm going to go to expand this artwork before I do a live paint. So you're going to use the white arrow, sorry, the black arrow. You're going to select the jacket, and then you're going to go to Object, Expand Appearance. And then you're going to select it again, and you're going to go to Object, Expand. You will turn on the object, and you can turn off the fill and stroke, and then you're going to click OK. So at this point, I will be able to do live paint. And notice I still have my zipper puller and my zipper teeth, so everything seems fine. So use the black arrow, click and drag to select the whole jacket, and then go to Object, Live Paint Make, and now it works. At this point, you can use any color in the live paint bucket to click the color you want inside, and there's no problems whatsoever to color it in. So this is what you will do if you're having difficulty creating a live paint group. Then you have to expand your object once or twice. Okay, so in this case we did it twice. Another example I want to show you is if I have a symbol, for example, I have a button symbol on the back of this dress, you'll see if you try to do a live paint, the computer's not going to let you. So if I go to Object Live Paint, it's going to be grayed out. I cannot do it. So I could either go to Expand, or I could use the black arrow, select my symbol, and then go to right click, break link to symbol, and now it just becomes a line art instead of a symbol. And then at this point you can just select everything and go to Object Live Paint Make, and now it's going to work just fine. So those are different techniques that you can use if you're trying to color in an object that has symbols and brushes such as zippers or ruffles, etc. You'll have to expand it or break the link to the symbol if it's a symbol in order to be able to color those artworks in. So next we're going to talk about how to create your own brushes, gradients, and symbols. Next, we're going to talk about how to create your own custom brush, custom symbol, and custom gradient. So first you need to have a design of your brush tips. So brush tip can be any motif that you draw. So for example, in this case, it's a little leaf. So you're going to take this brush tip and you're going to be able to make a pattern brush where you have the motif repeated over and over, an art brush where a single motif is stretched over for the length of the line that you drew. And then there's also a scatter brush where this single motif or the brush tip is just sort of randomly spray painted on your page. So for us, most useful is going to be the pattern brush, so we're going to be looking at that first. When you look at the brushes panel, you know from before there's a brush library button where you can load and save your brushes, whether they're new or pre-existing or the ones that you just created. This button here is to remove the brush stroke from a particular drawing that you drew. Here is the options for the selected object, and then here is the new brush. Finally, here you have the garbage icon, which is the delete. So if I wanted to click on any of my brushes that I don't like, I could select it and then click on the garbage to delete it. So brushes will be used very often for anything like lace, embroidery, rib, knit. So in this case, for example, there is a rib on this collar. Also remember from before that I gave you a whole bunch of different libraries that are already pre-made for you. So there's CAD brushes 1, CAD brushes 2. So there's ruffles, lacing, hook and eye tape, different kinds of zippers, zigzag stitches, etc. I also gave you a symbols library as well, which you can use, and then you can also create your own symbols and then add them here and save them. Just a little reminder as well that I also gave you a textile swatch library under the course document, which has different stitches and weaves, which you can make semi-transparent, lower the opacity, and then you can put another color underneath if you wanted to have a colored technical drawing. So now we're actually going to start working on the custom brushes first. So I'm going to follow your handout to go over each one of these. So first we're going to draw a pearl brush. The pearl brush will be done using the ellipse tool. So I'm going to press Shift and click and drag with the ellipse tool in order to create a perfect circle. Then I'm going to select it with the black arrow, and then I will click on the new brush button, which is at the bottom of the brushes window, and then a dialog box will come up. So I selected my brush tip, which in this case is a circle. I click on the new brush icon, and then the computer is asking me what kind of brush I wish to create. In my case, I'm going to create a pattern brush, so I will click on that button and select OK. At this point, I can also give it a name. So I'm going to call this Pearl Brush. And spacing, I'm going to leave at 0. So I want 0 spacing in between the brush tips, in between my pearls. And then at the bottom, you're going to select the colorization drop-down menu to say tints. If you don't do that, then you will only have the brush always look black and white. But if you select tints, then you can change the color of the stroke of your brush. So here I've selected the tints so that later on I can change the color of the stroke. And then I simply click on OK and I'm done. So to see how that worked, I can just make a straight line using the line segment tool, and then I will click on the brush that I want to have, which is this one. So this worked perfectly fine, and then if I want to make it smaller, I can change the stroke, and therefore I can play around with that. If I want to change the color of the brush edges, I can change the stroke into a different color. Now this is already showing up here, so I can use it anywhere I want. So for example, I could draw a circle and then apply this brush, and then that's done, and I can always go back to change the color of the brush. So next we're going to do the rib brush. So the rib brush you're going to be using for any garments that have a knit hem, such as sweaters or bomber jackets that have a rib at the bottom of them. So we're going to learn how to do that. First, you're going to select the line segment tool, and then you're going to click and drag while your shift is being pressed. So press your shift and click and drag for about this much. So that should be a little bit longer than the place where you're going to be putting it in, such as the rib hem, for example, here. Then that's really all you need. So just make sure that you have pressed shift when you drew the single rib. So you're going to select it with a black arrow. You're going to click on the new brush icon in the brushes window. Computer's going to ask you what kind of brush you want, and you will select the pattern brush and click OK. Then here I'm going to rename it as rib brush, and then I will change the spacing. If I leave 0 spacing, then the brushes will be right next to each other, which will not look good. So I'm going to put 200%. And you can see in the preview window, the brushes are already further apart from each other. If you want them to be even more further from each other, you can put 300%, and then you can now see they're further apart from each other. So you can play around with this as you wish. I'm going to put 200%, and then I will click OK. Before I click OK, remember that I can change the colorization method to be tinted in case if I wanted to change the color of it later on. So I'm going to say tints and then click OK. So here you can see the brush shows up and I can now use it. So if I wanted to just make a straight line, I could then click on it and then it'll be showing me my rib. If I wanted to change the thickness, I can just use smaller font and then the brush will become smaller. So you can make it smaller. Also, it is a line, so you can always just go to reshape tool in case if you wanted to curve it, etc. But now, what happens if I wanted to put this inside of this shape? There's 2 ways to do that. One would be to just try to make it fit the edges as close as you can, which you can do. You can try that and then just adjust it until it fits. You can obviously also adjust the outline, the edge of the rib to make it fit, so you can play around with that as well. It is a little bit easier if it's just totally straight, but if it's not straight, it becomes a little bit harder, in which case I recommend doing a clipping mask. So to do the clipping mask, I'm going to first make one single line of my rib and make sure that it's a little bit bigger than the rib shape, the clipping mask I want to put it into. And then I will copy it. So edit, copy, and then you will first copy this outline. Then we're going to take the rib like that and put it on top to make sure it covers. And then with this rib being selected, I'm going to go to right click and go to arrange, send to back. So now the rib will go behind the outline. And now all you have to do is create a clipping mask, which we did before. So use the black arrow, You're going to click and drag to select both the outline and the rib, and then you're going to go to Object, Clipping, Mask, Make. When you do that, you're going to notice that the outline disappeared. So if you go to Command F or Edit Paste in Front, that's going to paste back the outline on top so that you can now see it. And at this point, I could just group this together if I wanted to, and that's it. So that's if you are putting it inside of a clipping mask shape. If you are making just a straight rib, then that would be easier. You wouldn't have to you wouldn't have to do the clipping mask. You could just simply make the straight line and then put your rib inside, and then it would be straight. And then in that case, it would be a lot faster and a little bit easier. But if it's not straight, then you would definitely have to use the clipping mask method in order to put the rib inside. Okay, so those would be two different ways to add your rib to a particular area. Next, I'm going to create my own zipper brush. So you already have a whole bunch of pre-existing zipper brushes that I uploaded for you to use, but now we're going to look at how you can create your own. So first, you're going to change your stroke to 0.25, then click once on the rectangle tool, and then using the rectangle tool, you're just going to click once, and then it'll display the box where you can enter the width to be 0.75 points and height to be 3 points. Once you have entered those values, you click on OK and you have your one tiny zipper tooth. Then you're going to select it with a black arrow, go to Command C to copy it, and Command F to paste it in front. Once you have the copy pasted in front, you're going to click on the right arrow on your keyboard and it'll move it over. And then you're going to click on the down arrow just once and then it'll move it down a little bit. Then you're going to use the black arrow, click and drag a marquee selection to select them both, and then you're going to click on the new brush icon. So click, select pattern brush, click OK, give it a name, zip brush new. You're going to leave spacing as 0. You're going to select on colorization method to be tints, and then you're going to click on OK. So now you can see it added as your new brush. Then you're going to create a straight line using the line segment tool and then click on the new brush to see what it looks like. And now I can see this is looking pretty good. Next, we're going to create a double needle top stitching. So to do that, I'm going to zoom in, select, pre-select 0.5 stroke, and then using the line segment tool, I'm going to just click once on the artboard. Then here, I'm going to enter the length of the line that I need. So I'm going to be putting 2 pt, and I'm going to put angle to be 0 in order to get a straight line. So then I will click OK, and here's my tiny line, my first top stitching. Then I'm going to select it. Then I will go to Control C to copy it, Control F to paste it in front, and then I will move it down 2 clicks. So 1, 2, and now I'm going to select them both using the black arrow, so click and drag to select them both, and then I will click on the new brush icon, create pattern brush, click OK, and here I'm going to call it double needle top stitch. For the spacing, I'm going to enter 100%, and then I can change the colorization to tints in case if I wanted to do a different color later on, and then I will click OK. So now it appears here, so I can just test it out and see if I like it. So you can put it on a technical drawing on a garment and see what it looks like. And then here I have applied the twin needle top stitching to my line here. If you double click on it, you can actually then change the properties. So if you wanted to increase the spacing, you could do that here. And and then that way you can just change it if you wanted to. So that's if you double click on the zipper brush. Also, you can then change spacing or anything else here as well. So now I'm just going to show you quickly how you can make your own lace. So I've created 2 different lace designs, and it's very straightforward. You use the pencil to create the lace design. You select it, you click on the new brush icon, select the pattern brush, click OK, 0 spacing, call it lace, and then you click OK. So here I have my lace brush. So if I draw a line, I can apply the lace brush, make it smaller, and then check it out and see if I like it. Next, I will do the same thing with this one. So this one is going to have a straight edge at the bottom. So I select it with a black arrow. I select new brush. That'll be a pattern brush, lace 2, 0 spacing in between. I can select tints, so I can change the stroke color if I wish to, and then I click on OK. And now if I draw a line, I can see what it looks like. So it might look better if I just make it more delicate, so I reduce the stroke, and then here's my own lace. So now that you have a whole bunch of personal custom brushes, how are you going to save them? So to save them for permanent future use, you're going to click on the brush library menu, go to Save Brushes, and then you can call them with your name. So Zoran brushes, and then you can save this on your USB, on your desktop, anywhere. So I'm going to save it on my desktop, Zoran brushes, and then I click on Save. So now I have saved my personal brushes, and I can go back in the future and use them. So if, for example, you're working in the future and you want to upload them, then you go to Window, Brushes to display your brushes, and then you can go to the library icon, click on the other library, go to Desktop, select the brushes that you save with your name. So in my case, it's Zoran brushes. I click on them once, and then I click on Open. So then Zoran brushes will open as a separate brushes window, and I can see all of the brushes that I created and that I saved. So the same way you can save your symbols as well and then upload it later on. So I'm going to now show you how to create a custom symbol. So any of these designs, for example, like the lace icon, can also be saved as a symbol if I wanted to, but I would like to show you how to create a rivet. So first of all, you want to make sure that your symbols are open. Symbols trims is the library I gave you from before, so you're welcome to use those items as well. But now I want to show you how to create your own symbol. It could be anything, whatever you're able to draw, you can turn it into a symbol. So for this exercise, I'm going to be using the oval tool, so the ellipse tool, and I'm going to create a rivet that is 4 points in diameter. So we'll click once and create 4 point by 4 point width and height ellipse and click OK. So for this, I'm going to have to really kind of zoom in a little bit more. And you want to make sure it's 0.5. Then you're going to select it with the black arrow, and you're going to click once on the scale tool, which is this one. Sorry, double click on the scale tool, and then the dialog box will come up. So double click on the scale tool and enter 50% so that the new copy will be smaller by 50% than the original. And then you want to click on the copy button. So 50% copy, and then now you have your rivet done. So next I'm going to go to Window, Gradients to display my gradient palette. And then I will select the radial black and white gradient for my rivet. Once you're finished, you could group it. So click and drag to select them both and go to Object Group or Control G or Command G. And then all you have to do is select it and then click on the new symbol icon where you can give it a name, Rivet. And then you're going to click on OK, and then it'll appear in the window. So now if I click and drag, I can bring down as many as I want. I can also use the symbol sprayer tool to put down a bunch of them. So here's the symbol sprayer tool. So if I click once, it'll come down once. So if I click here, it'll come down once. So you can just simply click and drag or use the symbol sprayer tool to bring them down. So any kind of symbol can be done the same way. For example, if I wanted to use my lace motif, I could. So if I selected this, but let's say I changed it up, let's color it in or something. Then if I select it and I click on the new symbol button, I can call it motif. And then I click OK, and now this becomes my new symbol. So if I just click and drag, I can just put it anywhere I need it. So you can create a buckle or anything you want, or an applique design, and then you can use it as symbol. To save it, you would click on the library button and then click on Save Symbols and then save it the same way that we did for your brushes. So next and finally, we're going to create a custom gradient. So the first thing you need to do is go to Window Gradients. So I'm just going to close a couple of these so it's easier to see. So the first thing, go to Window Gradients to display the gradient palette. So Window Gradients is here, and it'll just show up as black and white. So to add color to it, you're going to click on the gradient slider, and then you're going to double click on the first color, which in this case is white, and then you can select a different color. So let's say I want the fuchsia. Then to change the second color, you are going to double click on the tab and select a new color that you want to have. So let's say green. If I wanted to add more colors in between, I could. So to add more colors in between, I'm going to just click at the bottom edge of the bar and it'll give me a new color. So then if I double click on that, I can change it. So you can see you can add as many as you want. You can also delete if you change your mind. So if I wanted to delete this one, I just simply click and drag away and it'll be gone. The other thing that you can do is change the balance of the two colors or more colors if you have more than two. And then by sliding this diamond bar, it'll change the amount of each color that you have. So for example, I want to see what this is going to look like on a polygon. So I'm just going to make a polygon and it's going to have that gradient in it. You can click on the linear, which is this. You can click on the radial, which is this. And there's also the third one, which is freeform gradient that you can try as well. So you click on that, it'll change it. So finally, I want to go back, let's say, to the linear, and I wish to save this swatch. So in order for me to save this gradient swatch, I'm going to click on the plus button, which is the new swatch, and then I'm going to call it gradient new green red, and then click OK. So if I want to use this gradient in the future, it'll be there for me. So for example, if I make, let's say, a star, I can have any color or gradient from before, but then I can click on the custom one which I made, which is this one, and now it's applied. So you can actually go to Save Swatches to save it with your name. If you make a bunch of custom colors or custom gradients, you can save the swatch library so you can use it later on. The other thing about gradients is that you can change the direction and the starting point of your gradient just by using the gradient tool. So for example, if I select my star and then I wanted to change the look of it, I would first go and click on the gradient tool, which is this one, and then I can click and drag, rotate, and click and drag really long if I want to see more of the red. If I want to see less of the red, then I would drag a little bit less. So the starting point and the amount that I drag with the gradient tool will determine the look of my gradient. Also, at any point, if you want to use the linear, you just click on the linear, and then the same idea applies. If you drag a lot longer, then you only see a little bit of the green. If you drag for a short amount, then you're going to see more of the green and less of the red. So you can play around with the direction and the amount of each color that you see with the gradient, and you can add more color, delete colors, and make new swatches. So let's say I'm going to create a really crazy gradient with a lot of colors. So I can just click here and here, and then change the color and add more colors. So let's say this one I want brown, then I want like an orange, then here I want a yellow, here I want, I don't know, any more blue. So I could do that. So now I have a whole bunch of color. I can click and drag away to delete some of them. And then if that's what I like, I can then just click on the new swatch, call it, let's say, crazy color, and then click OK, and then now I have my new gradient here. So if I select this, I can then put my new gradient here, and I can change it to radial or linear, and using the gradient tool I can click and drag to change the amount of each color that you see and the starting point. So that's how you can play with the gradients. To remove a gradient, you just simply click on no fill, and then it'll take the fill out, and then if you wish you can just change the stroke. So if you want to get rid of the gradient, you just click on no fill, and then you can play around and bring in different gradients to your objects. And that's all for today's lesson. Thanks.